Hello, SolarLune here. Hi, and here's another game development log video for I Know Who I Am, a game I'm making in Golang by myself using raylib currently as the input, the drawing, the sound framework. Basically, the game development framework is raylib. I use easings as well from raylib, and the language is Golang, and the rest is me. I'm just coding it myself. I also use Sprite for the sprites and animations and also the map making. And I use Sunvox, you can't see it here, but I use Sunvox for the sound and music. Yeah, so before we continue, I'm going to show what I have so far. I turned off the sound. So there's a couple things here. For one, I got this text looking nice and sharp, which is excellent. And I also have this nice little animation that plays when you finish a message. You can also advance the message manually by pressing the interact button while the message is playing out, which is nice. And the player no longer has like that box around him. I just decided to go with the plain outline just to make it a little more easy. It didn't really add that much, even though I know I was going for, and I kind of still like it. I might go back, but currently this outline and the player looks fine. I made this I kind of fleshed out this room a little bit, this map. There we go. But yeah, overall, it's looking pretty good, playing really solidly. It's good, it's fine. Alright, so in this video, I thought I would do something a little bit differently. That's not it. There we go. I thought I would do things a little bit differently and answer some questions for this devlog video. Not necessarily this week, but just this particular devlog video. Thought I'd answer some of these questions here. Because some people had some questions on the first devlog video and can't hurt to talk about it. Following this, I'll be doing another video where I actually, well, I'll show a little bit about that a little bit later. But I'll start here with the first question by Larissa Fernandez. It says, hey there, SolarLune. This project looks really cool. Thank you. The engine looks very interesting to use. I am a beginner game dev with some programming experience, but so far I've only used engines like Godot and Unity, so I'm really curious about some things. Hope you don't mind me asking, but why did you choose Golang to make a game? I chose Golang because it's a very simple, straightforward language. It is, as far as native languages go, it's probably the smallest, or yeah, the simplest and most visually appealing language I found, which is a lot. That's quite a thing to say. But I think out of the languages I've seen so far, Golang is very good in terms of just, it's very clean. There's not very much to it. It's very simple. It kind of enforces rules that you have to align with in order to use it at all. But then at the same time, it results in very clean, very easy to read code. Yeah, so overall I chose Golang because it's a very simple language. It's very neat. It runs well. It's kind of like a general purpose language, which is good. So you have, there are some things I would like, but you have some solid, code speed with it being a native compiled language. You have a very easy to read coding style. So it's kind of just a really nice simple language. I think that's the number one reason why I chose it. When you think about languages like Java or Python, there's a lot of constructs to do things: enums, structs, classes, objects, like normal data types, pointers. There's so many things that exist in those kind of, you could say, older languages, I guess you could say, that really kind of get in the way, and that you don't really need all of them to make a game. And that's why I like Golang, because you don't have that many options for that many things. Like there's some things that are really nice to have that are part of Go, but there's some things that basically were omitted in favor of having a very nice, simple language. As an example, in Java, if you were to like have an object-oriented based design, you could have classes, you could have interfaces, you could have structs, as I recall. It's been a while since I used Java, but I believe there were structs. And then you could have a couple other ways to do things. Whereas in Go, it's pretty much just like structs. Like there's not really any classes or objects. There's not really any parenting or inheritance. It's just you have structs. You can embed structs, but that's basically it. There's some things to make dealing with structs easier, like interfaces, but that's basically it. There's not really like an inheritance system. It's kind of on you to either invent that system if you need it, or come up with something else that fits your needs more effectively. So I like Go because it's a very simple language, very straightforward. Larissa says, I don't know anything about the language, so I kind of wanted to ask, are there any libs that are helpful to create games with it, or if it was just language preference? I preferred Golang, that's true, but there are libraries to make games with it. Resolve is one. I made Resolve, which is a collision detection and resolution library, so that's useful. I use that for this game. I know who I am. Raylib is a good one. That's why I use it for this as well. I would recommend Ebitin as well, and Pixel. Both of those are nice game development frameworks for Golang as well. Larissa asks, also, why did I decide to make my own engine? I wanted to make something that was super smooth, had a very nice, easy workflow, not very hard to get into, and that was very responsive. And if you look at the previous video, previous devlog video, I showed off a little bit, or not showed off, but showed a little bit of the responsiveness in that if I update any of the assets in the assets directory, which means the maps, collisions, animations, sounds, music, any of that, the game will load it back in and I'll be back up and running immediately, which is very nice. It's very responsive, which is important when you're making a game. You don't want to have to wait around for a long time for things to recompile. You don't want to have to wait around for a long time to re-import or just exit and reopen the game to re-import assets if you're trying to do things like map design. So that's all really good. I actually made this scripting language myself, which is nice. And you can see me test it out one more time here. Yeah. So the text in this example completely changes depending on if I save it, then it automatically loads back into the game, which is cool. There we go. And yeah, the game continues to play. So I like that. I want that kind of really smooth workflow where it's not constantly stopping and starting. And it was really easy to do. It's really easy to do in a lot of engines, or I'm sorry, well, a lot of engines, but a lot of languages. I wouldn't say it's something that's specific to Golang, but I think that it works really well in this, for this game and for this purpose I have. Why did I decide to make my own engine? Because I wanted something really smooth and easy, very simple, ran really well. That was really oh, that's actually something I didn't mention, is that when you think about a game engine, it by nature carries a lot of things. I guess much like the reason why I chose Golang over other languages, the reason why I chose to make my own engine over other engines is because a lot of other engines come with things you don't need. If you think about Godot as an example, or Unity, if you're making a 2D game in Godot or Unity, it's going to come with 3D stuff. You might not even need any of the 3D stuff. Like in this game, I don't need any of the 3D stuff. I'm doing everything in 2D. It's just rendering. And raylib does have 3D functions as well, but with Godot and Unity, there's a lot of those engines, at least for Godot. I'll speak on Godot because I'm more familiar with it. With Godot, there's a lot of the engine that do 3D things that you don't need, or I don't need. And so I wanted something simple. I wanted something that basically was the equivalent of starting with a piece of paper and a pencil and drawing what I need, as opposed to starting with a bunch of colors and then throwing out the colors I don't need, and then starting with black, right? It's like you buy a painting set. Like, would you buy a painting set if you only needed black and white? And I'm talking like a pencil and paper. Like if you just need a pencil and paper and maybe, let's say, one other color, would you buy a full painting, like a box of colors, a box of paper, a box of pencils, if you only needed one pencil, one pad of paper, and one color? Or would it be better to just buy that stuff individually and then do it yourself? So that's kind of the idea, is that an engine comes with a lot of stuff you don't need. It might work fine, But I mean, you can also work fine by yourself if you're making games. You don't have to get an engine because everyone else gets an engine. You can completely just make the game yourself. What benefits and struggles do you find doing that? I haven't really had any struggles. I think if I was making this game by myself, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I might have had trouble. But I've been making games for a long time, so it's not anything hard, really. It's easy to see, like, oh, this, should work like this, or, this needs to be implemented like that. So I don't really have any struggles, per se. I think that if you're a brand new developer, or someone who just prefers to have the vast majority of things done for you, or someone who has a project that has a lot of needs, then an engine should be fine. Like if you are making a 3D game that needs to look graphically appealing, and you might be able to do modeling and texturing and coding, but not shader design, then an engine would be fine, because a lot of engines come with things like Bloom, or like Bloom filters, SSAO filters, shadows. They come with those things, so it makes sense to just be like, oh, well, I'll just import my models and stuff into Unity and I can get up and running. But if you're someone who's just trying to make a 2D game, then you probably would be fine at least learning how to code and basically making your engine yourself. It's not that hard or that big of a deal, I would say, especially with raylib. Raylib's a really good one. The benefits, I would say, is just having a really easy to understand design, being able to control exactly how the game works, being able to like rework things. Like, for example, let me see. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, this is an example. Like, this is a function that I made that basically will load in an asset. And it's generalized in that it just loads it in, and then you can just get it as whatever it is, because whether it's an image or a sound or whatever, it all goes to the same place. So it doesn't really matter how the function works, it'll just push it into the same, in this case, a map, a Go map, which is like a dictionary in other languages, or a hash map. So this is a general function to store assets. And I also kind of modded it so that basically it will also store the date that the time that the assets are created. So then the game can look through and basically see if any assets are updated. So you can basically reload those in. So basically, this is an example of something that the engine would do for you. If you were to use Unity or Godot, it would have this kind of functionality built in, where it would either do everything, or it would do this, where basically it loads in assets and stores them. But if you wanted to modify that to say, oh, well, let's see if we wanted to see if an asset was updated, then reload it, that's something that you'd have to kind of make your own additional like blob on the side of the engine. Whereas this, I can make it as part of the asset loading process. I don't have to do anything else. I can just, in my asset loading code, make it work the way I want. So that's something I think it's not really that big of a difference. I think it might be a little bit of a pain the more you have to do stuff like that, like blobs on the side of the actual engine, if you were making it yourself or making it with a game engine. So overall, I would say that the benefits are really just kind of things I prefer over like huge deals. I would say I would highly advise people to make the engine themselves maybe just once and see if they like it. And I'm not talking like for a huge game. I'm talking about maybe just like a Tetris game, or maybe just like, just see the difference between making a game with Unity or Godot or GameMaker or Unreal for like a Tetris clone or a Space Invaders clone or a Pac-Man clone, and do the same thing by code. And just see like, what do you think? For a 2D game, I feel like that's really more feasible. For a 3D game, it's not really that feasible. But then again, I've never made a 3D game in code, so I can't really even say. I've only made 2D games with code. With Gearin, that was even Gearin, which was basically 2D, was made in a game engine. But I would say that it probably would have run better if I made it like I'm making this. So So anyway, I think that it's a good I think that there's a lot to making a game yourself with your own engine, with a framework by code that builds your ability to write code, builds your ability to understand code and understand how an engine works. And it's something I would definitely recommend to everybody to do, to at least learn about it, even if you don't end up using the engine or going with making an engine yourself moving forward for all of your projects. Of Good says, very nice, sir. Thank you. Zadek says, the anti-aliasing on the letters looks terrible, to be honest. Otherwise, this looks dope. Thank you, and I agree that the anti-aliasing isn't very nice. If we look at the old video... Wait. Yeah. You can see, like, at the top of the S, at the top of the numbers, at the top of the I and T, it's blurry. That was the best I could get the text before. As it turns out, you can get it to look a lot better if you load in the text as a higher, basically the target size you're going to be drawing it at with raylib, and then draw it at that size. So it looks a lot better because I just learned how to do it better. So I didn't just, I thought that was the best I could do, but after looking around and trying some things, I managed to fix it up. And that is this line here. Whereas before I was doing something like this, where I just load the font. Now I'm using this, where I load the font in as the font size that I'm going to be using to draw the text. So it looks a lot sharper. It looks a lot better. Sunshine says, "What about Eversearch?" Eversearch is not canceled, but it's a big game, so I'm not going to be working on it at the moment. I'm going to be working on another game, this game, because it's going to be smaller, and the Eversearch is more of a long form game where I have to make a lot of content. I have to make a lot of mechanics to make the game work as well as I want it to, because the idea about behind Eversearch is really more of like an action roguelike game where it's skill based and action based, but their classes are unique and they all have their own like special ability. So with that in mind, I really wanted, I can't really like work on Eversearch. I mean, I could work on it alone, but I wanted to kind of get it to be better and, you know, like put in a lot of content. So it's very content based with a lot of enemies, a lot of classes. So I really need to make more time on like working on it. So it's postponed for the moment because it's too big of a project. But I definitely want to go back into it and make it because I think it could work really well. Skippy Z says, "Hey man, hi." Sunshan Shamon says, "Cool. The text seems a bit too big to me." I didn't change the size of the text, but I did change how big the lines are, and I also changed the spacing, so it's a little bit smaller spacing, maybe about like 1 pixel, and the lines are shorter. So it's the text isn't smaller, but it takes up less of the screen, so it does look a little better. I think making it like adding a third line would just be too much, and I think I can't really get it smaller, I don't think, without it being like really small. Like it would have to be basically half the size that it currently is, which I don't think would look very good. And I don't think, actually we can try that. If we just reduce the font size to 7, that's the closest to half it is. That's no good. What about 8? Nope. And this is kind of the problem with pixel fonts, is that they're really designed to be drawn at a specific size, and if you go beyond that size, if they're too small, it just won't look that good. To be honest, I don't even hate this that much. It's very like Game Boy Color-esque, I feel like. Or something. Like, I feel like I've seen like this kind of like blurry font before, maybe in like a PS1 game. Like specifically the font though, so. But I mean, I'm not really like trying to go for that, so I don't know. Yeah, 15 is basically the smallest we can get it, whilst I can get it while still having it be, whoops, nice and sharp. Wait. Whoops. Yeah, so that's fine for now. I'll either, well, I'll figure it out. I think that should be fine. Let's see here. Liam S says, "Finally, yes. Game Planet says, I would love to try to make some kind of a very simple game engine because I think I would learn a lot from the experience, but I don't know where to start. Any advice? Okay, so yeah, advice on where to start if you wanted to make your own game engine. A game engine is just something that runs a game, so it doesn't have to be super like a game maker. It can just be something that runs your game. It doesn't have to be general, like like this. I'm making it in a general way, so it can be used to run any kind of game like this. Like this game fits into this engine. You can't really use this to make a game like. It's not a game creation suite like Game Maker or Unity, but it is a game engine in that it will run this game and any game like this that will fit into this slot. But yeah, so like with that in mind, a game engine is just something that basically runs your game. So with that in mind, you could choose, and I know I'm saying with that in mind a lot, but you can you can really go and make your game with anything. I would recommend just like picking a language, and if it's a mainstream language enough, there will be game development frameworks in it that you can use. I would recommend raylib because it's good. I would recommend the raylib Go port specifically because it's complete. I know that there's other ports out there for raylib, and I know that there's other ports that aren't complete. So I would check it before you invest in it, but raylib and Go works well. Raylib alone with C or C# C++ should be fine. Haxpunk is good for hacks. Love2D is good for Lua. Pygame and Piglet are good for Python, although Piglet is kind of low level. It's like OpenGL, like Python OpenGL kind of. So it's not as complete or as easy for you, I would say, as raylib. I would recommend raylib really well because I feel like it does do the main things that it needs to do while also keeping everything as simple as it possibly could be, which I think is nice. I think it's really good. So advice, I would say, like, just start on it. Pick something really simple, maybe like Tetris, Space Invaders, Pong, something just super duper simple. One screen, minimal controls, and get that up and running with like whatever language and framework you choose. That's what I would say is for advice. But yeah, just get started. CamZX Legendary says, he is alive. I am indeed. Comanche. AK says, the plot idea is fantastic. Thank you. Max says, this looks really cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kenny Amaro says, this engine looks amazing. Thank you very much. I'm working on it. I think it'll be pretty good once it's done. Definitely work to do, but at the same time, I'm keeping pace with the idea, like with my ideas. There's not a lot I have planned or a lot of ideas I have that I don't feel like I would be able to put into the engine. Like if I wanted something in the engine, I should just be able to make it. Yeah, so I'm hyped about it. It's working pretty well, feeling pretty good. Vovu says, I love this wavy text on room transitions. Thank you very much. I like it too. It's kind of interesting. Banjo Media says, take your time, man. You'll get it. Keep rocking and rolling. Will do. Arethrid says, pretty cool digging the development shortcut you took by using Asprite as the level editor. Thank you. Gavin George says, really nice. Would love to see more detail. I like the route you're going down engine-wise, especially how you are designing it to make your life and workflow easier during the course of development. An impressive project for one-man band. Thank you very much. And your comment actually ties into Pristavu's comment. I'll comment on that in a couple of seconds about more detail. Loot Bandit says, looking good. The transition makes me think of Flint Hook, though. Thank you. And yeah, I believe Flint Hook does have kind of a similar system, similar transition system, I believe. I'm not sure. Hood Strats says that workflow is awesome. Using the Asprite slice system is GG. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I like the workflow as well. It's not too awkward. It could be worse, but it's not awkward at all. Not really. Lazy Bone says, love the feel of the game so far. The visuals and music are very evocative. I'm excited to play it. Oh, excellent. Oh, wait a second. I just realized something. Okay, I'm about to go back to check something. But yeah, the visuals are excited to play. Okay, excellent. Glad to hear that. I was going for a very atmospheric game, even if it's not too crazy of a plan of a game. Like, not even if the game doesn't I mean, like, even if the game doesn't have a really strong plot or really strong logic behind it, I want something that basically sticks in your mind, and that has a very atmospheric feel, very wondersome. A game that basically makes you think and makes you feel, even kind of scared, kind of interesting, kind of enchanted, just kind of a weird world. Kind of, that's what I'm going for. Kind of just weird, not weird like zany or creepy, but just weird like you're off guard. Kind of, that's what I'm going for, and I think it's going pretty well. Brandon Franklin says, I'm the dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. That is exactly the plot. M. Merriweather says, Yuri Wong shout out. I have no idea who that is. Pristavu, well, I'll go to that one last. Noe Rodriguez says, what game engine is that? It's my own game engine. I'm making it, essentially. Pristavu says, TLDR, you are amazing. I'd like to see more vids. Thank you. Thank you very much. He says, hey man, I followed your vids on YouTube and they are amazing. I'd really like to see more, even if they're not so planned like this one. I'm a Golang dev as well, and personally I would like to see vids of you working, go through your thought process as well as the finished product. There's a bunch of things to be learned from you by seeing the way that you work, approach issues, plan features, etc. The risk in doing live coding is obviously 2 threads of focus, commentary, and code, but I take the trade-off of a rougher video, tougher, if it brings real value and helps people learn Golang and game development. An example of why I personally like can be found on the Just for Funk channel, any video. It'd be unfair for me to ask you to spend more time on making high quality vids, but if you could just record yourself while working and maybe do some sort of live commentary on what you are doing, it would help me and others even more. Sorry for the long comment. Cheers. All right, thank you very much, Prisavu. Glad to hear you're a fan. And that's actually what I was gonna mention, combined with Gavin's request for more detail. Yeah, so the next video I'm going to make is going to be the implementation of a serialization, like save system for the game, but then also persistence, map persistence, which should be actually really simple. And I'll walk into that because currently the maps aren't persistent, which means that basically if you leave the map and come back, the map is completely brand new. It's actually a complete copy of the map. It's not the original one at all. Things are transferred, events are transferred, but it's a completely new world essentially, currently. And I thought that was a good idea, but I'll go into that on the next video. But yeah, I think for the next video, I'm gonna do like these 2 people, these kind individuals have requested, and basically see about coding something live on camera, on video. Shouldn't be too hard or too long, but I think it'd be cool and it'd be an interesting thing to work on. Alright, so yeah, thank you very much for watching. This has been the second game development log video. It's been just short of 30 minutes, so sorry if this has been me just rambling for 30 minutes. Definitely sorry. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. It's been real, and I want to keep making games. So yeah, see ya. Catch you guys on the flip side later. See ya. Bye.